Welcome back. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make a basic dialogue with the main data tables. So we'll start off with this scene again that we used for the installation and migration video. I have this actor here, which I'll add the BPC dialogue to. I will use the inherited one, demo dialogue here. I'll make it usable. This is important. If this isn't marked as usable, and you don't always want to make it usable because in some cases you might have two interfaces and you want one to handle it, the use action, while the other one doesn't. So you want to make sure this is marked on in this case. The name of the dialogue, you don't have to concern yourself with this at this point. This is mainly used for being able to jump from one interface to the next. Being able to reference it by name in the data table is how we do that. So what we do want to concern ourselves with is with the initial branch here, but we haven't set up the data yet, so we don't really know what this is going to be called yet. So we'll come back to this. The UI dialog is, in this case, we'll use the default UI dialog, but if you inherited from the UI dialog and made your own interface, then you can change that here. Okay, so then we'll populate some data tables. What we're going to be using here is the main data tables to keep this as simple as possible. This is the quick start kind of thing, and you can use this in your final in your game if you wish in this manner without making your own custom data tables. If you want to split them up later, you can do that as well. But for the simplicity, we'll keep them in the main tables. So what first we'll do is we'll create our speaker attributes. So in this example, there's going to be two speakers. There's going to be the player and the NPC, which is going to be the orange cylinder here. That's the NPC in our case. So we'll call this guy NPC norm, and we'll want to populate his name. We'll call him norm. He is not a player, and we don't want to silence him, so we'll leave that as is. Then the next one, we'll call this player me, and we'll give him a name, me. He is a player, but we don't want to silence him. In this case, we want to actually see the responses, so we will leave that as off. So now that we have some speakers, let's go give them some conversation. The first thing we want to do here is add a record for the very first, the initial dialogue. So we'll make him say hello, or this will be the dialogue name, so this can be anything you want. Let's say entry hello. There. Speaker attribute is NPC norm. We named him that. Yeah, so just make sure you remember the name that you called your speaker, and we'll give him the text. Hi there. And that's it for that. There's nothing else here. It's a very simple entry, and then we'll want that to flow into another piece of dialogue. So we'll say hello to, again, this is NPC norm. How are you? So back on your first entry, we want to set up the branch so it knows where to go next. You can say entry hello to, and then we'll add some more entries for our players' responses. So we'll say response. Good, I'm doing good. This will be a player me, I believe I called it. Let me have a look here. Player me, yeah. Okay, so we'll populate the speaker ID player me, and we'll say the response, or the actual text will be I'm doing well. But the response text, we want it to display something very short, so we'll say good. So that's the text that it'll show when selecting the response for the player, and then I'm doing well will be displayed once the player clicks on it. Unless he's silenced, then this won't be used. So response good, and what we'll do in response good, at the very end of it, we want to close the dialogue. That's it, we're ending the conversation. So this we'll call the built-in close function, and that will be the end of the conversation. We also want to add a response called bad. You don't need to name it like this. You can call it anything you want, even if you just call it bad. Let's do that. We'll just call it bad, and the speaker ID is player me again. We'll want it to say, I'm not doing well. And response text will be bad. And again, we'll want to close it at the end to end the conversation. So now that we have the responses, we can populate the entry hello here with the branches that are available to the player. So then we'll say it can access response good, semicolon. A semicolon is used to divide the response, the branches. All the branches will be divided by a semicolon delimiter. So response good and bad. This is case insensitive, so you don't need to put capital B if you forget or you don't care. And that should be it. That's the very, very basic of it. What we'll now do is back on our cylinder, we'll go to the component here and we'll give it the initial branch of, what was it, hello? Entry hello. There, okay, so in the initial branch field, entry underscore hello. Okay, so then if we give this a try, the actor is interactive, so we can click E and he gives us our very first dialogue, hi there. And then click, how are you? And there are our player responses. So if we click good, you'll see I'm doing well, and then it'll automatically close and we can come back to here. Now the reason we see these responses is because we marked this as a player. If you look in the documentation, you can do this. You can create a hub so that non-player interactions could also be displayed. So that's useful for menus. You'll see that in the sample that's provided with the dialogue system. There's one marked as a hub, and all responses that it has are interactable by the player. So he can choose what topic to discuss. So then if we click bad here, Norm is asking us how we are. We say bad, and I respond with I'm doing well. That's the basics of that. We can go a little further if we wish and add character portraits, but currently the UE4 editor doesn't allow us to edit texture or objects in the table editor. We'd have to use we would have to use an Excel sheet if we wanted to do that. Same thing with inline images. We can't reference assets through the table. We have to use CSVs. It's not part of this tutorial. So that does conclude everything I wanted to cover here. This is the basics of working with dialogue system. And thank you for watching.